Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon, so a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Endless, Flat Earth Sage, Goldie McKiernan, Phoenix Rising 86, Retro Bill, More Books, Cannabear, Fibre Oats, Michael Kahn, Rob H, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Troy Shuker, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Maria Nealons, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Liam Nedrick Jr., Abraham Mohammed, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, and David Wayne Foster. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
I do Saturday?
Saturday's the destruction of Ether on Ballbusters.
The destruction of ether? What's ether?
It's over right there. There's the destruction.
I mean,
It's
I
a
don't
label.
mind it.
It's a label for a hypothesis for phenomenon we experience in this realm that no one can science.
Listen,
You know,
Carlos, you're
kind of
going
like
down.
the wind, the sun, the moon, the stars, the ocean current, things that we can't science, but we still label. Same thing, just we labeled them and we accepted it and just kept moving on, even though their phenomenon we can't explain or science.
Phenomenon with Ether.
No, hang on, Neil. He's saying something here. So, can you say that with another subject?
I answered.
I know. Hold on. Can you say that? Use something else that can't be science instead of ether and say the same thing.
I did.
Gravity.
I gave you 3 examples: sun, moon, wind, ocean currents.
No, these are things we could see and validate. You can't validate your Ether.
Electricity.
Carlos.
You can't.
That's electricity, Carlos.
Phenomenon people experience, you can't validate. So you're telling somebody to validate an experience that they experienced of a phenomenon that you haven't experienced. Isn't that a bit strange?
You're invested in this Ether and it's going down. I'm sorry to tell you.
Guys, hang on. Before you guys get into...
I asked a question and all you're doing is, it's going down. You said nothing.
I'll just go get a cup of tea, let you guys have a wrestling match.
Go.
No. He's not listening.
Cuddles isn't promoting Ether, is he? Have you got the wrong end of the stick?
I don't know what he's doing. I'm trying to get context, but he keeps talking.
Yes, he is. He's an Ether believer.
Is he?
I throw monkey wrenches.
Stop lying. You said he's not God.
Guys, just keep it coherent. What I just heard was him describing a phenomenon that can't be validated and things of that nature. But where have you extracted that he's an ether believer from that? I don't follow.
Well, I started off with explaining something, right? And making the connections logically. And then it just went to no. But nobody heard
Carlos,
the logical explanation.
For the love of God. Is he ever going to get an entire sentence out without you interrupting him?
Yeah, but don't misrepresent. Nobody said no. Stop it.
But that's where we're at, though. Because what's the deal? Well, it's going down. That's a no. You're just using different words to have the same fit.
Cuddles. What is Ether, Cuddles?
It's a label for non-physical reality that we, other people, have experience with phenomenon of that non-physical nature.
That's a contradiction in terms.
It's just a label that we've put on something.
Hold on. I've got to stop you there. Okay, so that's a contradiction in terms.
Okay, go on.
You've just said it's a non-physical place.
is non-physical, like electricity.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, I heard you.
non-physical. The
Yeah.
physical parts
I got that bit. Yeah,
are only
yeah,
because of this medium.
yeah, I got that bit. I'm clarifying what you said. Yeah, you just need to nod. Yes, you did say that. Yes, I've clarified it. Now I've repeated it. Non-physical, non-experienceable. Contrast that with
Well, I
that
didn't
I
say
have.
non-experience.
There we go again.
This is
There we go
phenomenon
again.
people
I'm
do
just
experience.
summarising your first point that I disagree with, Cuddles, because it contradicts
okay.
itself, and I haven't got to the contrasting bit that contradicts it before you've interrupted me. Now, I know I've interrupted you at the very first statement because it's contradictory. You can't have a non-physical, non-experienceable place that you have experienced. That's a contradiction in terms.
Said it better the first time. I said it
Just
correct.
make sure you show up Saturday, Cuddles.
So here we are.
Well, this is where I wanted to get context because he was saying that kind of stuff. But I said, can you say it with something else that we don't experience? And that's when I said, forget it. It's not worth it.
All I said was you're attacking a term based on a phenomenon. Nobody can assign.
God.
Nobody can sign.
What's the phenomenon?
But people experience
Cuddles,
different
he's
types
just
of
asked you
phenomena.
in response, what's a phenomenon? Because you're describing a non-phenomenon that you can't experience as a phenomenon. That's something that you would experience, something happening. If it's happening, you're experiencing it. If it's non-physical, it ain't being experienced and it isn't a phenomena. So again, you're talking in contradictions.
The sun, the moon. No evidence that they're physical. They're both apparent. We're all experiencing them.
Please go a little deeper. What has that got to do with ether?
That's my point. There are lack of a better term, manifestations of energy, whatever you want to call it,
Okay,
phenomena
again.
that other
Oh
people
my God.
experience.
Stop.
There.
Ether is non-manifest, though, isn't it?
But this is where I'm going.
Oh, hold
Nathan.
on. Hold on. Just get to his next contradiction. You say there are experienceable things, but ether isn't. So you're now describing things that we do experience and are phenomena. That isn't ether, though, because it's non-manifest.
That's the thing, though. All of these phenomena were attributed and labeled under ether.
Oh, that's nice.
Point.
So they
Even
like
Tesla
with
did
like
the
with
same
Witsit.
thing.
So like with Witsit, you decided to ascribe them all to ether. That's a nice begging the question fallacy. Fascinating that you should ascribe all of these effects that we do observe and could be scienced to ether. Have any of them had the cause of the effect validated by systematic experimentation as ether? I.e., could it be validated when it's non-physical, non-manifest? Definitely not. So when you say it's automatically ascribed to ether by your begging the question assumption, doesn't mean that it's been validated as any way causally linked with ether, because that's non-manifest and therefore can't be varied to show it caused anything. So none of these phenomena, that's effects, are ever going to be ascribed to a causal link to ether because ether's non-manifest, so you can't vary it to prove it. So this is merely your assumption that they're all tied to it. No, we don't accept that assumption that you make when you say, well, all of these phenomena are tied to ether. Something non-manifest, not varied, not validated, not experimentally true, not even experienceable, it's non-manifest. So I don't care what you're now describing these phenomena. They're not connected to ether just because you tell me they are, okay?
Non-physical, but still yet manifest.
That's a contradiction in terms. If it's non-physical, that means it is not experienced. That's non-physical.
Energy is non-physical, but it's experienced.
Bro, what are you talking about? Ether isn't energy.
Okay, then.
So why are you equivocating with something that it isn't and telling me what it is?
Based on the conversation we had a couple of weeks ago on the Wednesday, energy was the definition that QE read off of. Now, they say counter space and capacitance in counter space. That's energy.
Right, capacitance in non-manifest. Sorry, counter space. That's physically real. That's some place we can experience. Is it? So you've just described it having
not
capacitance.
like we are.
Sorry, you didn't answer me. You didn't answer me, Cuddles. Is counter space a physically experienceable place to have capacitance or not?
I'd say yes. We have electricity.
Sorry, I didn't ask you that. Third time's a charm. Is counter space a real place? You're describing somewhere as real having capacitance, aren't you? No, you are not. Why aren't you answering me? Is counter space real for it to have capacitance?
And I'm saying yes.
Sorry, non-manifest, non-real locations you think are real to have capacitance. Show me counter space, please. Obviously, you can show it. It's real. Right, how does it have capacitance if you're not showing me? You're not showing it me. I'm not seeing counter space.
A phenomenon.
Sorry, I want to measure its capacitance. Can you show it me so I can measure its capacitance that you're claiming it has? I want to measure the capacitance of counter space. So I first need to see counter space so I can figure out how I'm going to measure it. Can I do that with counter space? That's the fourth time I've asked you. You're going to say it's real?
I'd love to. I don't have the apparatus for it.
You don't have the apparatus, so you can't show it me. It seems that you're saying you haven't got the apparatus to show me something that you've claimed has capacitance, but yet you can't show it me.
I can't test
How
it the way
the
you
hell
want
does
me
it
to
have
because the
capacitance?
apparatus-
How does it have capacitance, Cuddles? If you can't even show it me, how can it have capacitance? How have you measured said capacitance in an imaginary place? How have you done that? Measured the capacitance that this non-existent counter space is measured to have when you can't even show it me? It's an outrage. Do you think I'm stupid? This is an insult to my intelligence.
Dude, it was the word he used. I called it the Holy Spirit.
Sorry,
you guys
how much
didn't like
capacitance
that.
has counter space got? I want to measure
hey,
it, Cuddles. You're
that's
just ignoring me and
blasphemy,
moving on, like a fundy with a fundy belief. Why don't you address the question I've asked you now 5 times? How do I see counter space to measure its capacitance? This is nonsense, Cuddles. The answer is you don't. I'm not going to ask you a 5th time. You don't. So your bullshit that you're about to launch into about how much capacitance somewhere that doesn't exist has is utter nonsense, Cuddles. Totally unvalidated. Just fantasy that you decide phenomena have. Fantasy. Okay? That's what it is. Don't insult our intelligence by telling us about the capacitance of Narnia.
10th man, you want to address that Holy Spirit?
I want to address the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit can be lied to, is referenced as he, is referenced as a person. Third person of the Trinity in the Bible, because Father is called God, the Son is called God, and the Holy Spirit is called God. So now he's going to say that the Holy Spirit is some source of energy rather than a person that can be lied to. Now, the Bible clearly states that if you blaspheme the Holy Spirit, there is no forgiveness of sins. How do you blaspheme energy?
Are you
Thank you.
Got a capacitance to the Holy Spirit or something?
No, it's. Listen, he can believe in ether all day long. The minute he ascribes it to a person, is a person counter space?
No. Is Narnia a person?
No,
Nope.
no, it's a metaphor.
Well, I can't wait for tomorrow.
I don't know, sick of it.
No,
People pissing down our backs and telling us it's raining. That's basically what's happening. Well, they tell us about stuff that isn't real, can't be validated, isn't scientifically proven, has nothing to show, but is then ascribed to the causal link of all these different phenomena, lists and lists of them. They're all because of ether. Oh yeah, what's that then? Show it us. Well, it's the capacitance in counter space. Well, show us this counter space so we can measure the capacity. Oh, I can't do that. It's non-manifest. But yet, simultaneously, the cause of almost everything. You'd be surprised how much it causes, even though we can't show it.
Nathan, it's been going this direction for a while, where it's become like small g, the gravity, they're God for the ballers. This is a small a, the ether, the God for whoever.
Correct. Seems closely related to the verses. The Lord Jesus Christ is all things in all things, and in Him
Why
we
is this
live
turned
and
into
move
a discussion about Christ? I don't get it.
Oh my gosh,
Cuddles
this guy
was
is
talking about
misrepresenting
counter-space.
scripture here.
Generally speaking, I've got a lot of respect for Cuddles. I'm just surprised. I didn't know he was an ether believer, but he's pissing down my back and telling me it's raining. He's telling me about stuff that can demonstrate themselves as physical when they're non-physical and non-real and can't be shown. I don't get why you do that.
No, let this guy just
The way we comprehend things isn't how things always are. And we don't always have the words to use to put things into terms where people can make it palpable for them. It's not easy.
But you have, Cuddles, you have got the words. You're describing capacitance in counter space. You have got the words. You are using them.
I only referenced it because QE had brought it up weeks ago because that was the definition that he found. I don't call it that. That was what you guys pulled out of the hat.
So he's referenced what some idiot monkey has published about counter space, and you're saying that's him using it. No, I very much doubt that.
I told you guys that day I would substitute the words, and I did. In the same sentence, I took his definition and substituted the two words that I substituted, and voila. It makes sense to me. It doesn't make sense to him or you. And what am I supposed to do?
I don't know. If
we
you're
can't
punting
science
ether,
most of the things going on.
Everyone in G+, just one sec. I'm trying to establish if you're just trying to stir the pot, in which case good, or if you actually genuinely believe in this crap that you're peddling when you tell us about non-existent places having capacitance. I want to know which it is. Are you just trying to stir the pot and make a point? In which case, great. I'll encourage it. If you're saying, if you just insert ether into a definition that had energy, for instance, then that makes it the same nonsense in a different bottle. Okay, I'll swallow that whole. But if you're saying, no, I actually believe there's capacitance from ether or counter space, then that's the bit I'm taking umbrage with, because it's come from you, and my respect for you leads me to get frustrated with you as an individual. I shouldn't care. I do. I like you.
I'm starting a little because I have questions. I have so many questions, and from my perspective, looking at like this whole Saturday thing, it's the same thing with the moon and the sun. We can't science them. We've attributed a label. We've attributed things to this. It's experienced. It's
Cuddles, we
not
see
really
these things.
Guys, can you stop interrupting him?
It gets a little frustrating because I see the sun, I see the moon, I don't see ether.
Hold on, man. Look, other people have experience with something, some phenomenon that's not the sun, the moon, or the wind. Okay? Something. The only thing that people can really attribute something to is energy manifest in this realm, which, I mean, plasma is supposed to be so-called the fourth state of matter, which is a form of energy, but it's the way we make it in this medium that shows what it is. But we don't know what that would be like outside of, say, our bodies, right? To be conscious energy.
I see.
That's not necessarily dependent on a medium.
Okay, that's not necessarily the case. Okay, so given that is the case according to you, as a disclaimer, why would you state that the counter space has a capacitance?
We can't hear you, Nathan, if you are speaking.
Say again?
Oh, you're back
Oh
now.
man,
We're
I
waiting
thought it
for
was
an
me.
answer.
He's asked a question. He's pausing, waiting for Cuddles to answer.
I didn't catch it. Sorry.
I said, given
You
that you're
cut out.
disclaiming
I thought it
about
was
how
me.
we don't know, and it's not reasonable to make assumptions about things like the sun by comparison, then why would you say that counter space, somewhere that doesn't exist, has got capacitance, given that you're making these disclaimers?
Logical jump. The sun's getting its energy to exude from somewhere. It's just deductive. The way we understand things, it would have to, right?
It could be getting its energy right from the gases on Earth.
We don't know. That's why your disclaimers.
Right.
Now I'm asking, given we don't know, you're saying, well, by deductive logic, there's a place that we can't experience called counter space that has capacitance. That's not deductive logic. That's a massive step with an assumption.
Counter space. Yeah, they call counter space for lack of a better term, because like ethereal planes turns a lot of people off.
Well, what's an ethereal plane?
Right. It's
But relabeling it,
argument.
sorry, relabeling it counter space, ether, ethereal plane. It doesn't matter what you call it.
right. And that's the
Argument
thing.
from
That's
ignorance
where it comes
fallacy.
down to. We can't science it to go one way or the other. But there's still an experience.
Sorry, we started this with you telling us that you had a way of physically experiencing this, and then you launched into how counter space had capacitance. And then you started talking about how energy worked. So you are making these leaps, but you're making disclaimers like we shouldn't.
He just said something right there that I'd like for him to describe. He says, we do experience it, but it's not physical. What is it that we experience that you can that directly ties to ether?
Well, the way I'm seeing it explained. Right.
No, experience, not explain. What do you Cuddles, please. My patience is running.
Sensation of energy field changes in an area. It's like feeling the barometric pressure go up or down.
Okay.
Where you're standing on a dock like that, but you're moving in an area where the same barometric pressure the whole way across the path that you're taking. Now there's a fluctuation going on, and you sense the fluctuation.
Okay, so you sense
it's
the
an energy
temperature
fluctuation
from
that the body
Cuddles.
picks up.
Enough Cuddles, my goodness. So you sense the difference from walking into a hot room after coming out of a car that's been air conditioned. That's ether?
No, I'm not talking about temperature.
Well, you said you experienced something. I'm experiencing coming. You said barometric pressure. So, okay,
right, and I use that because it's closer to the sensation.
Okay, fine. I'm going up in the plane. My ears are popping. Someone hands me a piece of chewing gum. It unpops. I say I experienced ether.
Also, it might be a good idea for him to define what energy is, because when I talk to people with ether, they define energy very differently than typical physics. So he needs to define.
Can we
what
wait on
is.
that, Paul? I'd like an answer to that question that I paused on purpose for. No answer.
No, it's not the same. I
okay,
use
well,
the
no, but I'm experiencing it, and I want to call it ether. I want to call it ether because I'm experiencing it.
Because the sensation is similar.
Fine, I want to call that ether because I experience. I want to. Yeah, Cuddles, you're not being fair. I'm experiencing it. I want to label it ether. How dare you say I can't? That's what you're saying right now to us.
Exactly.
No, I'm saying that
yes, you are.
Barometric pressure where your body's having to equalize, and that's what anybody else here would say. That's what Nathan would say.
No. You said you experience ether via energy. And I'm saying, okay, similarly, I could say I experienced this. So my ears popping is a result of an ether change I experienced.
Yeah. You can say whatever you like. This is America.
Okay, thank you for admitting that you can say whatever you like because this is America. Now prove it.
I'm a bit surprised, Cuddles. A bit disappointed too.
Carl's been pushing this for a while. I'm surprised, Nathan, that you did not know, and this takes you by surprise.
I didn't notice, no.
We don't get into the Bible here.
Well, first of all, you better
Don't bring the
not,
Bible into it with ether, Cuddles.
you better not associate the Holy Spirit with ether again because you would
You're
be
talking about
taking-
non-physical manifest.
Contradiction.
Talking Holy Spirit, talking God, talking angels. You're talking conscious energy, quote unquote plasma.
no, spiritual beings
Non-physical
aren't.
to us.
No, yeah, I can raise my voice too. That's a spiritual being outside of us. That's not what plasma. My goodness. You guys take
So
the
really,
Bible
this
and try
isn't-
to make whatever you want with it. Instead of
Yep.
sticking
Plasma's
to
physical.
Then you have to prove it. Prove that physical being outside our realm.
The issue is that this isn't something for flat Earth debate because Nathan deals in the really is things we can show.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected. And if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now, we are joined by 10th Man, Neil, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. That's about it.
That was funny.
Everybody
Yeah.
else is lost in the ether.
Hello, everybody.
Welcome, one and all. Good afternoon, morning, or evening, wherever you may be.
Oh gosh, what a beginning.
Right, let's do this. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere-edge horizon, formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
No, that's what we're asking for. They want us to think and believe we live on the globe. Fantastic. Show us the curvature so that I could attest with you that we live on a globe. There's no curvature.
Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
No, if you don't have a globe, what's the reason for spinning? And if you're spinning, you're going to be able to know that. But they say, well, we're spinning, but you don't feel it. Okay, we're back to ether again.
Any evidence of you can acquire an elevation angle measurement from a curved baseline?
This is an obvious. No, that's an impossibility. You can't get an elevation angle from a curved baseline. It's over right there.
Even the balls admit that.
Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
No, don't have a clue on that one. They even say they don't have a clue on that one. But they do give it a distance of 93 million miles after saying they don't have a clue.
I read somewhere where it was 91.
Well, I read somewhere where it's infinity.
You can join in from Discord, by the way, just because we've started the live show. You don't have to be shy. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Define it first, please.
The current gravity definition would be the bending of pseudo-Riemannian force space.
What's force space?
Length, breadth, depth, and time. Pseudo-Riemannian force space is Einsteinian geometry for the bending space-time that's going to bend in that geometry.
Okay, I could leave something physical that's got length, breadth, and width, and it could warp, and it could bend. But how do you bend time?
You don't. It's conceptual. This is only existing in the mathematics. So this isn't something that we need to concern ourselves in physical reality, because we're talking about something that only occurs in the maths.
What happened to mass attract mass and Newton?
That was expired 107 years ago, almost 108 years ago now. When
so you're
Einstein...
saying that had a...
Oh, go ahead.
No, are you saying that had a shelf life of about 107 years and then it expired?
No. 107 years ago, Einsteinian pseudo-Riemannian force space-time bending replaced Newtonian mass-attracting mass. It superseded it. It introduced a completely different dimension. The two are incompatible because one is Euclidean and the other, as you detailed earlier with what you can physically experience, is non-Euclidean. It's length, breadth, depth, and time as a fourth dimension.
Okay, so we have to go non-physical, non-Euclidean, non-experienceable to make up what gravity is, because you can't define it or show it or prove it.
Right. Well, when you make the claim of 107 years plus ago that mass attracts mass, as was the Newtonian claim, in name only, Newtonian didn't ascribe himself to this nonsense, but in name only, Newtonian mass attracting mass can be debunked by showing gas behaviour. Mass doesn't attract mass, hence it needed to be replaced.
That's funny, because as you're talking, it sounds a lot like ether.
Well, assuming something without the proof, assuming something without proof could be attributed to many things that the heliocentrics push.
True.
If you really want to get
fair, though.
Go ahead, Paul.
Because I've never heard a glober or a pseudo-globian numpty claim Einstein gravity. It just seems to have just come from the institutions, the universities, not actual people.
Well, that's because you're not experiencing anything for us to report on it as the people. What are you going to talk about? What are you going to report?
I would like to know the percentage of people who actually believe Einstein and the percentage of people who actually believe mass attract mass, whatever mass is.
I mean, what we're really looking
Depends
for
on the
is
application.
we're looking for scientific evidence of gravity. Sorry, Flat Earth Solar, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that it depends on the application and which doublespeak that they need to utilize at that moment. Then they'll flip-flop between Einsteinian and Newtonian.
Right, I've had all sorts of sound issues today, so I'm just going to fiddle with some of the settings. If it all goes wrong in the chat, if you can let me know. As I say, I've had to reset everything this morning, which is a nightmare. Nevertheless, any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Negative.
Why is it negative?
Because you can't get to these places.
So it's the hypothesis, if you can describe it, it depends on getting to a place.
Well, how are you going to vary and manipulate a star or the moon or the sun?
Ah, okay. So we got to the gist of it now. No, I agree with Neil.
Sorry, what are you agreeing with, Neil? Should we make a note of this event?
I disagree.
I agree with Neil because we can't get the gist of it.
Good morning, Harwin. How are you doing?
Hello. Yeah, we're talking about astrophysics again, right? So it doesn't matter whether you can vary or manipulate a star, sun, or the moon. That's not the problem. The problem is that they have presuppositions about what they are. And with it, you would have to vary and manipulate those things within the presuppositions, and that is absolutely impossible.
I'm slowly edging up
So
the
I'm gonna,
volume.
so,
Can you?
so I'm going to vary. Sorry.
I was just going to ask if Neil could interrupt you so I can shout at him to shut up. That'd be helpful. Neil, shut up!
Okay.
Did that? Let me just check. I don't often get to do it. I don't hate doing things like this. Technical issues aside, can I just get an okay from the live chat that didn't distort or sound like blowing your eardrums out when I shouted at Neil? That'd be grateful. I'd be very grateful. Not you in G+. You haven't got filters. I just care about the audience, not you in the panel.
Yes,
No
it hurt
offense.
my ears.
Yeah, it will. In here, it will hurt your ears. Out there, there's compressors
I
running.
just listened back. I just listened back on YouTube. There's nothing wrong. So no
Excellent.
distortion, nothing. Perfectly clear.
I think I'm there. I've guessed the settings for the most part today, but they're in place.
You're perfectly fine in the ether. The panel, you're killing us.
We'll get to the ether after housekeeping, okay? Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Are you serious? Okay, volcanoes.
Volcanoes aren't connected to the molten iron core claim in the heliocentric model.
How can they not be?
Because they're connected to the tectonic claim. Something separate.
What's that?
The tectonic claim that there's a ring of fire that's caused by the friction of the tectonic activity brushing up against each other, causing the heat to make the rock melt into the lava that forms in these pits below the ring of fire and then eventually gets forced up through these tunnels that we call volcanoes. That's the story and the rhetoric as it stands. I mean, I don't know if that's true or not. I've no idea if that's true.
That's
Cool
true.
story.
Hang on, that's true in Euclidean space, but in forced D space, I think Neil's got a point. See, we can make up stuff too.
I mean, it is linked to the molten iron core claim is kind of linked to the gravitational accretion claim because it's part of the story, but that story's been crafted to include many aspects of the narrative. So you have gravitational accretion after the Thea strike on Earth, depositing its molten iron core into originally Earth's tiny core, and then gravitational accretion causes the moon to coalesce into what we have now from the debris of Thea. Hence, when you go up there, you've got old bits of tree from down here up there. Obviously, that's how it happened. It was destroyed and then coalesced in gravitational accretion. So that's why, the moon is what it is, and that's got Thea and its direct interaction with the claim to be spherical Earth, giving you a backstory that does include gravitation.
You know what? Just in thinking, when these claims come up, everyone says, well, they say, well, where'd you hear this? Well, they say, okay, I'm asking, when will they show? When will this they group ever show something instead of just say?
I've got some
Which
great
day
software.
are you talking about?
Show you a geodesic in space-time on the screen. Is that not good enough?
What do you mean? Haven't you seen the James Webb? All those
No.
pictures, Tim?
No, I don't mean
James Webb's got
I don't
nothing to do. That's got nothing to do with gravity unless you have a backstory to attach to some of the pictures. So if you wanted to take, for instance, with the old and now a bit dusty compared to James Webb, pictures from Hubble, where they had I can't remember what they call it, deep probe or something sounding suspiciously vulgar, but nevertheless they had a look into a tiny section of space for a very prolonged period. And then what they came back after they coloured it in with the Crayola was what they called the pillars of creation, right? Well, the pillars of creation are what will form in future the stars by way of gravitational accretion. So therefore I can take a Hubble telescope and incorporate a heliocentric backstory that incorporates an aspect of gravity. But if you just say the James Webb telescope pictures, if they're genuine, which they might be, some of the, not the artwork that comes after, but just the images that they take of the night sky, I'm sure they are genuine. But they're just pictures of the night sky. They don't have a backstory of gravity yet. So giving it them for them seems a bit, I don't know, crazy. Let them make the story and claim up about the pictures, as opposed to just saying, well, here we go, there's James Webb. Well, no, that doesn't automatically mean that the pictures are directly heliocentric in their claims, does it? Unless I'm missing something, I've not even really seen these pictures. Are they all CGI, or have we got anything authentically original?
Well, I thought I was being clear when I said when they show, I meant empirically through experimentation. So from they say to they show, that's a vast difference, and anything is made up in between.
Yeah, that ain't gonna happen, 10th, because they can't.
So, any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Nope. You
Negative.
can't do that. Because all those fields rest on presuppositions and thereby could never yield a viable hypothesis.
What about any evidence of the R value, the presuppositional Earth radius value?
Just assume.
I've got a picture of it in Master B under Britannica Kids.
Okay, what does that mean?
Do you see it?
Britannica
You share it?
Kids. Oh yeah, I've got that. Okay, it's
All
on
right.
screen.
Measurements of angular distance. A cutaway drawing of the Earth demonstrates how latitude is determined. It makes clear that latitude is a measure of the angle between the plane of the equator and the lines projected from the center of the Earth. For example, the angle between a line drawn from New Orleans on the 30th line of latitude to the center of the Earth and the line drawn on the plane of the equator is 30 degrees. In each hemisphere, the 30th line of latitude connects all points whose projections to the center of the Earth form a 30-degree angle with the plane of the equator. The latitude of the equator is 0 degrees. Lines of latitude north and south of the equator are numbered to 90 degrees because the angular distance from the equator to each pole is 1/4 of a circle, or 1/4 of 360 degrees. There is no latitude higher than 90 degrees. The North Pole is situated at 90 degrees north latitude, or simply 90 north. The South Pole is at 90 south latitude, or 90 south. Maybe you felt that I slowed down my speech at certain points. If you look at the picture, center of the Earth, equatorial plane, and elevation angle with a baseline, is that measurements coming from the surface of the Earth or from a plane?
Coming from a plane with the protractor incorporated with a map that would be internal, concave, if you were to look at it from the measurement position of this angle. If this measurement position and the white section that we'll call a cake slice, yeah? If this white section is an angle measurement to Polaris, and you're at the North Pole when you measure it, then what you're transposing it down to is the centre of this diagram, which has a projection of the flat map that you're actually standing upon up to the heavens with the star beyond them. But this would be an angle measurement from the centre of some ball? No, it's on a plane. That's where you'd be holding the sextant. In the middle.
That's not reality.
Well, you're holding the sextant is, and you're measuring an angle to a star is, but when you do it in this way, it doesn't even seem to show the star. It seems to represent it as though the North Pole is a star, because the North Pole is not a position where you'd be standing if you were standing here measuring a star from this position. You don't have a map above you when you're at the North Pole, but that's what they're showing. The angle's coming from the centre of this bit with a map projected up. Now, I realise that what I've just described in no way said the word globe Earth, because that isn't what we're dealing with here. We're dealing with an internal projection of a concave map taken from the celestial sphere model and then transposed up to the arc of the tool measured from this central point by way of the Haversine formula to get it to be this map in a concave form that you're standing inside. I know you guys think that's the globe. It isn't. It's what I just described. Thank you, 10th. Any more to add on this? Excellent, by the way.
Hold on, that's what I mean, because it's not reality, because nobody's going to be standing in the center of a globe.
Well, this globe is just a projection of a concave Earth by way of Haversine formula taken from the celestial sphere model on a flat plane because of the angles needed. And when you transpose it back and describe those angles, they'll have to come from the centre, even though there's some people out there that think they're standing on the surface of this diagram. They're not, because any angle measurements will be depicted as thus. in the middle with the Haversine-derived flat Earth measured angles off a plane. That's what you have to use. That's why it's depicted that way. This section along the triangle along the bottom, I know it's like looking like a cake's been sliced into a spherical cake, admittedly, but that's the plane. That's what you're standing on measuring an angle. Here's the angle, if it was as I described the angle to Polaris when you're standing at the North Pole. 90 degrees above your head, out to the horizon, 90 degrees. Hey, Brian. I'm excited that you're here.
What's up, Joker?
Did we cover R? Any evidence of the R value? Did we get to that? If not, that's the last.
Yes, we just did.
That's it. That's the last. Excellent.
Brian today?
Yeah, I got Brian. It's the last housekeeping question. So, about 2 weeks ago, I came up with this great idea, and Brian stole off me. So I was talking about it with Anthony. Now, admittedly, Brian has expanded out my fantastic idea that I explained to Anthony at least 2 weeks ago, and has now hopefully put a tiny bit, because it doesn't need much, spit and polish on that, and we'll disseminate it to you now, unless he's feeling shy. We'll see how much sleep he's had.
I'm driving.
Are you driving?
So just give me maybe
it can
15,
wait.
20 minutes.
It can wait.
Could you 20 minutes? We'll do it.
Great. So we'll get it in the live show today. I'm pleased to hear it. So like I say, Brian will verbalise my great proof later that I came up with a couple of weeks ago.
No, what I'll do is I'll speak about the thing I was speaking about yesterday, and you can then add your bit. Right? You can talk about your bit first, and then I'll throw in the bit I'm going to show.
Oh, you've changed that. I'll be going first. I don't mind going first. I'll take the credit. I can summarise your point. I mean my point.
Yeah. No, I'll be there. I'll be back home in about 15 minutes.
Now, I want you to be the one to verbalise it first, as much as I'm joking aside and all that. I'll wait. I'd rather wait. I'd rather you be the first to send this into the ether.
No hassles. Okay, just give me 15 minutes and I'll be with you, okay?
Yeah, Nathan, you can go to you can go to Master B, see another version of it.
This isn't what Brian was talking about, was it?
No. It was
okay, yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's on.
Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead, take over. I'm going to put a few more for you to go through.
It's just the same diagram. So, I mean, you're showing how this is essentially a protractor. On the right-hand diagram, you've got the arc of the protractor. It's no longer depicted as the map, although it does have the word equator on it. Okay. Well, you're taking the measurement from this point, and what you're actually looking at in terms of the arc over the top of you is the arc of the protractor measurement that you're taking. Now, if this line was from your position down here up to the star, then that would put this arc of the tool as the roof that you're measuring, if you will. Well, there's no globe Earth involved in this. That's why they cut a section out of it when they show it that way, because it isn't. You're taking it from a flat plane. That's the only way you can get angles. That's good diagrams. I love them. Keep them coming.
They are. Look at the next two I sent you.
Okay, let's put Skype back on. This one's a dot.
No, it's after that.
What's the dot?
I don't know. Someone else put that.
It looks like a Mario cherry. Yum.
It's a star, I imagine.
That's not a star. Do you know why it's not a star? It's a little black dot. It's a little dot on a screen. Stars come out at night and you can see them with your eyes and telescope and stuff. I can see the little squares of the pixels from the camera that's taken whatever this is. So this isn't a star.
Very old camera.
Who took this?
Me, this morning, 5 o'clock.
What's the star?
I don't know, but it's south from me in Suffolk, so I'd have to look it up. I don't have anything to hand.
South from you? Oh, that narrows it down. Moving on. Another diagram.
That's a UFO.
Say again, Brian?
No, that was Neil. I said that's a UFO.
And I'm sure it is a star. I was just being pedantic because obviously it's a two-dimensional representation of what we could see. Now, I think I could take that image. Let's just go back to it. Take that into Photoshop. And so, hold on 1 second. Sorry, who? NASA? Needs more green? No problem. I'm on it. So NASA say that it needs to be a bit more green because this star is in the habitable zone. Anyway. So yeah, thanks.
It's too blue.
Are you ever going to get to my picture?
I'm on it now. I was just about to. It's just Neil just dragging this joke out.
Gosh. All right. So here's a few more for you to comment on what they're doing.
Oh,
Especially
thank
the
you.
last
You're
one.
prompting me to comment on them. Well,
Yeah, you did very well with the other ones. I mean,
it's the same again. So here's your flat plane where it says longitude, and then it shows from E to F with a curved line. Well, beyond that, between E and O and F and O, that's a flat plane. That's the area that you're taking these angles from. That's how this is done. Now, again, this one does have a globe map projected up by way of Haversine formula from the celestial sphere model that's a flat plane, because that's what uses the angles. Now, in many a depiction, oh, it's the next one. Here we go. You have both the globe Earth, that's this little bit down here in the centre, and the celestial globe, if you will, sphere, around it. But what are you actually taking the angles from? Well, if you look really closely right in the middle, it's off this flat plane here, with W, H, E, and H around it. That's the flat plane that you're standing on to measure any of these angles. 2P, in this case, that might be Polaris, and H, that would be the horizon. Yeah, that's a straight flat line with an angle that goes through the sphere that you're standing in the middle of, if this is depicted in the same way as the previous diagram, with you in a globe. You're not looking in the back half of a concave globe Earth, but nevertheless, that's how it's depicted here. And on this one, it's just this little bluey coloured domey thing. But that's the same exact thing. It's just you standing in the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth, same as this diagram, you standing at O, looking at the inside of a concave globe Earth that you think you're standing on, even though you're measuring from the centre of it, which you're not standing on. You are, however, standing on a plane. You'd have to be measuring an angle. What's this diagram?
Going.
Yeah, you can talk. You can do the. I hate these. It's just the same thing, but with two slices from it, without the dome around it. Go ahead.
They're doing like a shell game, right? Switching.
Please go to the last two slides.
That's the ones I'm on.
Okay. Here's this without the sphere drawing. Looks like parts of protractors from the plane. Now go to the very last one.
Okay.
Now, these are protractors. You could see the 90s right on them. This is it. Now just draw a circle and you live on the globe.
Well, yeah, you don't know inside a globe. You're taking the angle from the centre point. So it says celestial pole.
The way they do it, if you draw a circle around this, encapsulated with a Earth, if I superimpose Earth over this with a PNG, see, we live on the globe. No, the angle's coming from the center, the plane.
Yeah, it's missing the globe in the middle, right? It could have, around about where my mouse is now depicting, a second sphere with you standing in the middle of it, looking up into a concave bottom half of a globe when you measure these angles to, say, the celestial pole and out to the horizon. That's one angle is. You know, you could say, I'm standing in the middle of a globe looking inside to my map when I measure these angles off the flat plane, with a globe Earth projected up from the flat plane. And through that globe, we get the angle to the star without seeing any map projected up between us and the star that we're measuring. We just have us and the star and no map between. I love it. Right. It is a shell game, Arwin, by the way. Yes, you're right.
Yeah, they quickly switch around like, oh, on top of the ball. Oh, wait, you're inside of the ball. Oh, please don't notice that. Please don't see that. Let's move on.
What he's seeing here, besides the obvious, is the horizontal coordinate system, the elevation angle to the star, or whatever that's depicted here, and the azimuth, the direction from north for the bearing. Looks flat for both. To get both, you need a flat plane.
Good stuff.
Has a penny dropped on that one? I mean, has a penny actually dropped on that one with this image that your azimuth from north to the star, where you're pointing your sextant at the star, so that's got to be done on a horizontal plane for your compass reading, and it shows it. And the elevation angle, which you need a plane to even achieve. So right here, both the azimuth and the elevation angle need that plane.
I think what would help is if you had a hippopotamus-shaped glove puppet explaining how the Haversine formula worked.
Well, we're working towards that because John, refracted curvature, has a better handle on that. But that's when they convert everything from flat to a ball while they keep projecting it.
I think that would be incredibly useful because one of the things that we say in our chat or in comments, Anthony will attest to this because he says it repeatedly, daily almost, when they say, have you got a flat Earth model or a flat Earth map yet? And the response is all of the maps are flat. Now, their response is, well, they've come from globe projections. To which we need to be responding, yeah, which came from flat Earth projections. But we need to show how. We've told people how.
But it's not like, but we just cut
from globe projection. They just took it, they measured it, the flat plane, and that's how they constructed the globe projection.
Yeah, but most people don't get that, are we? We're at the cutting edge of this argument.
Yeah, but we're saying that it's not a globe projection. It's a plane that they get angles from, and then they create a globe to project. They don't even have one to project until they create one from a flat plane, which is the last few pictures. So that's Haversine in the short, you might say.
Right. So we need to drum this home so that people understand that the way their world's been produced in terms of a map is the celestial sphere model, which is a flat Earth that's capable of giving you angles to stars, the stars being wrapped around you in a sphere. That's been then converted into a globe by way of the Haversine formula. The globe, with its projected map in place of the tool you use to measure the stars, then has a cylinder wrapped around it to project out from the globe back onto a cylinder. The cylinder's then rolled back out flat. That's the process of getting from angle measurements to stars, Polaris most specifically, to a model that has a flat plane with the dome of the heavens around it, to a globe with a flat plane in the middle of it, concave, and a celestial sphere around that, to a cylinder wrapped around the globe excluding the stars, but with them marked on the map with latitude and longitude lines, that projected onto the cylinder to be cut out and laid flat. That process we need to go over and over and over so people understand that the sphere bit is just an in-between stage that's completely redundant. It's not required, it's not used, it's not useful, doesn't do anything for you. That's why you end up showing it with you standing in the middle of it. If you're supposed to be standing on it, it's not useful to you.
Can you go to the next slide?
Yes?
Okay, so you can see here that the equatorial plane is shown here. This is the center of their Earth, but it's an equatorial plane. It's a disk, it's a circle. And there's we'll call him Bean Boy because we used Bean Boy before. So there's 3 versions of this. And there's a question. Which location is the equator? 1, location A. 2, location B. 3, location C. 4, none. Which location would Bean Boy have to...
I was about to see the countdown clock. Dun 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 dun.
Which location does Bean Boy have to be to see those movements on those dates of that luminary? Where would they have to be in this one of these 3 to be the equator? June 21st, December 21st, and March 21st and September 23rd in the middle. Now, what is March 21st and September 23rd? What's happening on those days? Starts with the E.
Equinox.
Equinox.
Yes, that he would have to be there to observe March 21st and September 23rd because that's when they cross the equator. Wait a minute, how come the equator is on a flat plane? How come the equator's on a flat plane here?
So if you said location, B, C, or none, I'm hoping you'll summarise this point, 10th. You're dragging it out a little too much. The gaps are too long.
No, that's not. I'm waiting for people to respond. People are afraid to put their name to it. I mean, if you're Bean Boy and you're standing, where would you have to be standing in order for those stars to be over the equator?
Okay. All three options are a flat plane.
You have to be standing in the center of the Earth.
Yeah. All the options are a flat plane. And yet this is from their book saying, hey, guess what, where you have to be? It's like a little pop quiz for them, right? It's like, wait a minute, how come you're not showing this on the ball?
Yeah, they forgot to draw in the globe in each of them, like in between the celestial sphere and you, looking up at a concave map that replaces the arc of the tool you're measuring, because you've got to have a sine formula-derived map from this flat plane you're taking the angles from to put a globe around him, in between you and the stars. So you're standing looking up at a concave Earth. They haven't put that bit in.
All they needed to do is just draw the other bottom half of the virtual sphere, and people would have not picked up on it.
Wrong. No, because the other half would be the bottom of the celestial sphere, wouldn't it? That's the line that the star's going to move along. So June 21st.
Yes, of course. But the thing is that then to the observer, they might again fall for the little switcheroo trick and think, oh, wait, yeah, that means a globe because I'm looking at a globe. Oh, it's inside of it? Yeah, it's on a globe.
Is it location 1 then? Or A?
Have I missed the quiz?
Yeah, it's location A.
Should be.
I went for 1 in the chat.
Oh, were they giving me hints in the chat? Should have been watching that. Let's bring that screen back up. Yes, I'd have got the question quicker to actually think about it. But 10th's now gone silent, leaving these bloody long pauses again.
I'm waiting for conversation. Go to the last slide I'm going to show today. One more quiz.
Oh, wait there. I've only just joined to see if I got it right, 10th.
He's dragging it out. It's annoying.
So,
it is not annoying.
You want me to drag it out?
He's dragging it out whether we like it or not.
Next time you have a long pause, we'll just change the topic.
10th knows when he's in control of what's going on, and he's leveraging that as much as he can.
Yep.
Well, you're speaking for my intention. You can't divine intentions, I thought.
You are in control of this conversation. I can make that as a declarative statement with it being absolutely factually correct.
If I'm in control, go to the next slide.
Yeah, I just did.
Am I in control?
Yes, I'm there.
Okay. Which diagram best represents the view of Polaris to an observer located at the Earth's equator?
Four. All 4 options are a flat plane.
It's funny. They have these quizzes and they forget to draw a globe.
Yeah, Arwin was saying earlier, he was saying, well, all they needed to do was draw the other half of the sphere and they'd have got away with it. It's like, yeah, but you've got Polaris marked on this, right? If you look at diagram 1, I know it's wrong, but just for the ease of looking at it, because it's got a label, Polaris, at the guy's zenith. Well, obviously not, he's not at the North Pole, he's on the equator, but where's the globe? You've just got the line that the star's on. Well, that's you looking at the star from a flat plane, isn't it?
Yeah, well, you look at number 4, the one with the green box around it. So look at where Polaris is on number 4. It's on the horizon, 5,400 nautical miles away, because it's no longer at your 90, it's at 0.
I don't know if Brian's finished yet. You all parallel parked up and such, Brian?
Yeah, just give us a moment there, Nathan. 1 second now. I'll boot you.
No
Does that
worries.
mean he wants me to do more pop quizzes or what?
No, God, no. No more quizzes.
I just want the answer to question 1.
Am I in control?
Oh, okay. No. I guessed. Adam guessed. The chat also guessed. Let's just give some answers from the chat first. Oh, it was only you, Adam.
I think people were a little... I mean, can I explain my rationale for your 10th? Maybe that'll help on number one. So as I look at it, what you've got is you've got the equinoxes and the solstices planned out there. Now, if we think about what they are, we've got the transit between the equator and between the tropics. So, for me, the only one that can allow that is you'll have twice a year where the sun passes overhead at the equator, and then once a year where it travels up to the tropic and down to the tropic. So, as I'm looking at this, you can see, look, December the 21st, the sun is in the south, which is correct if you think about where the sun would be. June the 21st, the sun is in the north, and then March and September, look, the sun's transiting on its way back between the tropics twice. So that would be why I picked number one, whereas the others, look, if you look at the path of the sun, you're in the, well, you're about, if you look roughly where the double transit is, so where March, September is, that's about 45 degrees. So you would say they're somewhere along that sort of latitude for B. C, I've not got my head right. That looks like it's quite far south, doesn't it? No, quite far. Yeah, quite far south, isn't it?
Yeah,
but that's why I'd go for 1/10.
Same reasons. That's why I guessed. I think you and I were the only ones to guess, Adam.
Okay.
I was prepared to put my neck out. I still don't know if it's right, but
okay.
I don't know either, but I guessed 1, 2. So I've said location A. Adam said location A. While we've got it on, as this has actually now turned into the pop quiz I was demanding it didn't, because 10th Man's dragged it out. Anybody else want to have a guess from the chat? Given that 2 of the people on the panel have had a guess, we might be wrong.
I said A.
Oh, did you? Did you say it 2 weeks before we did?
Okay, so read the question, please.
Which location is the equator?
Did it ask for a star, or is saying which location is the equator?
Yeah, it's saying which location is the equator.
Well, which location is the equator when the equator on the reified globe model is 0?
There is no equator. I mean, from that point of view, I can get pedantic. Your equator line is an averaged point.
That's what I thought.
There is no equator. I mean, how you describe the equator, if you reify out at the midpoint of a sphere, then that's how they describe the equator. But it's still just an average, right? So
that's no derived convention.
There's no line on the ground, is there?
Right.
Even if they had a globe, R would be an average because they don't have an ideal sphere. So how could you have an equator? The definition.
But either way, all 3 of these with the observations, which we haven't found out if you're correct yet, and it's, people aren't guessing. Somebody in the chat says 3. Mike 808 gives me a super chat. Nobody wants to guess 10th. Can we end this painful ordeal or what?
Well, were you expecting me to answer it? No, I'm putting it here to see what you guys say.
We've already said 1.
Are we trying to guess which one's the equator? Is that the one y'all are on? I'm sorry, or are we trying to figure out?
They're all equators that have a flat plane. It doesn't matter which you guess in their book. The book's forgotten the globe. They're all on a flat plane. But which would you describe as having your sun moving directly at your zenith at March 21st and 29th? Is it the 29th? It's too small to read.
Is that the question, Nathan? Are they asking that specific question you just said? Or did they just say which location is the equator?
Which location is the equator is the question.
Okay, does it, I mean, they're showing the sun moving at the solstices and the equinoxes.
Please, whatever your conclusion is, this is killing me. Please.
No, I'm trying. I think it's a malformed question because it's not asking to the observer. It's just letting you guess. It's showing you the solstices, the equinox.
Perfectly all right.
Whoever's
as a
interrupting
question.
him when he's
Makes
finally
no-
making whatever conclusion he's got to make, please stop. Try again, 10th. Hopefully this will be the end to this.
Yeah, when I first saw this, I'm looking at the solstices and equinox, like Adam said. And I'm saying, okay, is that the question? And then I read the question. It says, which location is the equator? And I said, well, the equator, well, that's zero position, and it's where you get your angles from. It's our flat plane that we live upon. The whole thing is zero plane. I mean, what is the question here?
It's location A.
It should have been at the equator, but now it's the equator, which is really weird because that's not what the equator is. It's not a point.
Do you not think you're just being a bit pedantic there?
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
Well, you guys over the pond get pedantic all the time. Is it off limits for people here in the States or what?
Depends how justified it is. When we do it, it's
But we
absolutely
don't do
justified.
quizzes on it.
Well, sorry about that. I just thought it was interesting because it's obvious from the pictures what they're asking, but the question doesn't really say it well.
Location A.
It is location A.
No, none. It should be D.
It's also a malformed question. It also forgets to show the globe. It also has 3 answers that are flat planes. The list goes on. Thank you, 10th. Brian?
It couldn't be answered.
Well,
It can be answered correctly. 4, none. It has the answer there.
You got it wrong. You said 2.
No, I said 1,
No,
but
you didn't.
now, in reflection to the pedantic inquiry, I thought, like, yeah, but there is a none answer. So it is kind of a trick question.
Okay, can we pray silence? Brian's got his presentation up, and I want you to all pay close attention. Shouldn't take long. Go ahead, Brian.
Okay, Nathan, I'm going to do this part, and I'll leave you add in afterwards your point, okay? Because that's more technically yours than mine. Okay, so this is a diagram from a video I made some days ago. If we treat the X, see this X here, the purple X up at the top? Treat that as Polaris, right? So here we have a boat, and this is X, this is Polaris at 0. And here we have a plane 6 miles above the boat, and here is Polaris at 0. So the plane can be either straight above the boat or at the opposite side of the equator. The whole point is, at the equator, they're both going to get a 0, right? When they use the Mariner sextant in the boat, they're going to get a 0 to Polaris, 0 degrees to Polaris at the equator. When they use the Bubble sextant in the plane, they're going to get a 0 degrees to Polaris in the plane, right? But the plane is 6 miles above. So I'll just move on here to a point. 1 second now. Right. So now we add in this, right? So if we imagine that this is, right, this is Polaris here, this purple cross. But the boat is seeing Polaris at 0, right, because it has Earth curve in its way. I use the moon, but it doesn't matter. It has Earth curve in its way. That's the claim, right? So the boat, the mariner on the boat using the marine sextant will get a 0 degrees to Polaris at the equator because we're told for generations Earth curve, right? But when the plane is at the opposite side of the equator or directly above the boat's zenith, 6 miles up, the navigator on the plane at the equator will also get a 0 degrees to Polaris. So how can Earth curve be blocking both of them? It can't. Right? The claim of Earth curve was only something that can be claimed, right? Obviously not proven, but claimed for the boat. It can't be claimed for the plane. And the claim of Earth curve comes from the fact that they're seeing Polaris at their 0 degrees horizontal. Right? That's their 0 degrees with the marine sextant. At the equator, they're getting a 0 degrees to Polaris. But if the plane is 6 miles above the boat, how can it be getting, or at the opposite side of the equator, 6 miles above, 6 miles higher than the boat in elevation? How can the plane be getting a 0 degrees to Polaris as well, if the reason that the boat gets it is due to Earth curve? So this completely debunks the claim that our curve has anything to do, not that we believe it ever did, but the point is that it debunks the claim that our curve has anything to do with the boat getting a 0 degrees to Polaris.
Beautiful.
At the equator.
Let me just summarize what Brian's saying. So using his diagram, you've got a boat that's got a star on the horizon. Let's say it's 1 degree above the horizon. Now, if there's a plane sighting the same, let's say a helicopter or a hot air balloon, above the boat, now, according to the claim, that star for the boat has a physical limitation called Earth curve, blocking its view of it. So it's going to eventually be obscured by the curve of the Earth getting in the way. Now, above the boat, you can have something take the exact same angle to the star. Ergo, there is no geometric limitation to the star, because that would alter as you lowered in altitude. But as we know, the angle to the star does not change. Now, when it comes to the sun, they say we get 2 sunsets because we have an atmospheric refraction. Well, this puts them into a very sticky bind, the anti-flat earthers / globers. Why? Well, because what's their comeback? Oh, well, all the light comes in parallel. Oh, really? So, number one, it must be a straight line to run parallel with all the other straight lines. What about terrestrial refraction? Aren't all the lines bent? They're definitely not parallel then, if you've got terrestrial refraction. Further to that, Brian's pointing out that even if you have them as parallel, you'd have a geometric limitation at the horizon for the star. You wouldn't get the same angle as you raised in elevation, not because of the distance being infinite, in their example, but because there'd be a limitation to your view at the horizon that you could overcome. Ergo, the horizon precludes your view of a star until you raise up beyond that physical limitation and bring it back. That doesn't happen. The angle's the same at both altitudes. Thank you, Brian.
No worries, Nathan. I'd just like to throw in that a load of our opposition, including Mr. Sensible and others, all claimed that the reason that the boat and the plane were seeing Polaris at 0, right, was due to parallel light rays. Now, from Polaris, or wherever, the point is that they relinquished our curve, because our curve should be the reason that within their model, not for reality, but within their model, our curve should be the reason why the boat is seeing Polaris at 0. That's the whole point. If I just show here, if people can see my mouse, well, what should happen on their model is the boat should be down here at the equator, and Polaris should be straight up from everywhere along this arc, right? Along this hemisphere here, should be straight up from everywhere, and the boat here should be blocked. Its view to Polaris should be blocked by this here. I'm just going to wave the mouse around. This part of the globe here, I know I'm using the moon, but it'll do. This part of the sphere here should be blocking the view of the boat, which will be here to Polaris. So that's why they get a 0. They're getting Polaris on their horizon. But the airline pilot is also getting Polaris at 0 on their horizon. And that would put the airline pilot out here. So there's nothing blocking the airline pilot or the navigator on the plane from seeing Polaris. They're just seeing Polaris at their 0, the same as the boat, even though they're 6 miles above. Debunking the claim that it's our curve that's blocking the boat. Something that our opposition, some of them, relinquished in a moment, in a heartbeat, and started claiming it was due to parallel light rays. Now, I don't know what it's due to. But
before you launch into your speculation, they claim it's parallel light rays. Parallel light rays? No. We're supposed to have refraction. Right? Refraction always? Definitely not parallel. That would be a straight line.
Yeah, the parallel light rays have to be straight. See, this is the thing. Parallel light rays have to be straight. They can't refract. And the reason they have to be straight is the reason for them being claimed in the first place, is they need to give the shadows that we see in reality. That's why parallel light rays were claimed, so that they could explain shadows on the shadows we see in reality from the sun, so they could explain that on a spherical surface or a circular surface. So they can't be diverging when they come into their atmosphere, because they need them to be parallel to get the shadows.
And yet they're claiming refraction when they have things beyond the horizon represented as higher than they should be when blocked. And yet parallel light rays, that's straight light, is the reason that everything's coming in, but then there's no obstruction with the horizon because you get the same angle at altitude. So there's no geometric concerns or considerations when you're taking in the parallel light rays. There's also no refractive considerations with R attached. So it's a complete balls up. This is a total mess for the globe.
Well, if I share, 1 second, I'm just going to share something now in a moment. Let's see if I can get it. 1 second now, something, and this should be pretty good. Where are we? I'm going to share, maybe Kent has a picture of it there, but he sent me a picture recently. Yeah, any of these will do. Right. 1 second now. And you won't see any... Sorry, I need to get a photograph. Sorry, I was trying to get a photograph there. I don't want to break up this. I was trying to get a photograph there of the sun's rays coming down. Now, I'm just going to see if I can get one there. There should be one handy. I'm pretty sure Tent sent me one in recent times. Maybe Tent Man has one handy there.
You're looking for a picture of light rays converging at the sun?
Well, yeah, the point is that the point I'm making is we see them hit the ground. We don't see them diverging, do we? We see them diverging from the sun, but we don't see them changing, is what I mean. We don't see them 7/6R. We don't see that happening to the light rays. Sure, we don't.
No.
Of the sun. We don't see that. We see the rays coming down and hitting the surface of the earth, where it be water, land, that's what we see. I'm just trying to find a photograph. I don't have one to hand handy. If Tent has one, he might share it. But just while we're waiting for that, just 1 second.
That's the problem with a lie, isn't it? Eventually, one of the layers contradicts something else that you're trying to claim. So refraction, refraction, it all comes in parallel. Excuse me? Hello? Oh, it's a fun day to be a flat earther. This is great.
This is what I said was likely, I don't know, but it's likely the reason, and this is the only thing I could come up with, as to why the pilot would see Polaris, the pilot's the navigator or whatever, would see Polaris at their zero, which would be at their horizon, even though they're 6 miles up. The same way as the mariner sees Polaris at their horizon and they're at sea level. When they're both at the equator, is that the horizon always appears to rise to eye level. So the point is that when you see like the sun at setting, you can zoom to that setting sun, and you can see often the time, depending on how far down it seems to have set, that it's actually the sun is still above the horizon, but the angle has tightened. So consequently, when they see Polaris appearing to be at their horizon, it's just due in the plane and in the boat, just due to the horizon always appearing to rise to eye level. It doesn't rise to eye level, but it appears to, and that's all they need. That's what I say, but I don't know. It doesn't really matter. All I know is it's not our curve, and even some of our opposition have relinquished that, so I don't know.
But how can they be our...
Go on, John.
I was just going to ask, how can they be our opposition and not believe the Earth is curving? That doesn't make sense.
Or that the light's curving. How can they believe that it's not bending at 7/6 of the radius? They got a lot of problems.
major problems.
Well, no, I understand that they want to say that we're wrong, but if they're relinquishing the idea that the horizon as a result of the curve of the Earth, then they're not globers anymore.
That's correct. That's what we tried to explain to them back in 2020 when we released the Black Swan, and they relinquished their claim in the first instance with refraction. So not geometry, so not Earth curve, a light effect. Well, that's relinquishing your claim in the first instance that the globe Earth you think you're on has geometry to assert. That's their claim in the first instance. So yes, we've been trying to get across that to them since 2020, John.
Here is a photograph. Sorry.
I was just going to say that's one of the problems we really run into is the people that are trying to argue with us actually agree with us, but they just don't want to.
Yeah, that's why they're stuck in the same pond as us, separated from the rest of normie society alongside us. They're trapped here with us. They don't believe it either. Right, John?
Yeah, they really want out, I'm guessing, by now.
Heresy!
I've got your image of the sun rays coming down.
Yeah, Tent sent me this. I can't make it any bigger because it's in Skype. But this shows the rays of the sun coming down and hitting the surface of Earth. Now, before we even point out that they're diverging, not parallel, which is something we'll get to in a moment, the point is they're not being affected by standard refraction. There's no 7/6R happening here. There's no divergence of the divergence. It's just, it's coming, diverging down from a point in the sky. That's what's happening. And the thing about it is that the explanation we got, or explanation I got online, one of the things that they came at me with, a couple of them, was that the reason we see the light from the sun diverge is not that it's divergent, it's actually parallel, but it's perspective, right? Something that doesn't exist on their model. You can't have perspective, because that requires the sun to have an angular size, which you can't have on your model. So they're trapped at everywhere, every turn they go, they're trapped. And to prove that, here, this is their model. This is not reality. This is what they need to be. And what you'll notice here is they don't, even though they're showing the well at Cyan and they're showing the angle of the shadow at Alexandria, the point is that this whole globe here, all of this should have parallel light rays coming down to it within this diagram. So this diagram is fraudulent from the start, because it's only showing the sun on one part, whereas in their model, it's the whole thing they should have light rays parallel coming down to it. But they want us to believe that that's what's happening and this is what we see, and it's due to perspective. Perspective doesn't exist on the globe model. This is the globe model. It's orthographic. There is no perspective. All the maths are orthographic. 2D orthographic. There's no perspective possible on the globe. So we can't be seeing parallel light rays that we think is divergent because the sun is an angular size. No, the sun is an angular size because that is the perspective view of the sun, something that it can't have in heliocentrism.
With that, I'm going to say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, though, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. Another massive thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a member, and all that good stuff. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on a premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video. Shout out to Unitox Femu for hitting the super chat. I forgot to shout you out during the show. He says, all we are saying, give level chance. John Lennon. Thank you very much for hitting the super chat, Unitox Femu. Stay tuned if you're watching on an after show.
is over, right? And the thing about it is that it doesn't matter if after that they want to go and claim the ether still is real or anything else. It gets to a point where they just become the same as the opposition, the borders, because they just, like, if you're going to claim something after it's totally been debunked, then there's nothing can be done for you. You know, so don't worry about it. Leave them claim what they want.
This is true.
And so I had a question earlier, which was, how could incoming light be affected by 7 over 6R? It doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, it's paradoxical, isn't it? Because they need it to be parallel.
Yes and no, because in the beginning it's a category error, so you can't even have a paradox.
Right? Can you?
See, a paradox is two things that exist within the same plane of reality that contradict each other by necessity. Okay, so a category error, they don't exist in the same plane of reality. So, for example, apples and colors, like you can't multiply apples by colors, right? It just can't be done.
You're going to lose me for a second down the panel because I'm moving to the after show. If you're in the live stream, please move to the after show.
That sounded very professional.
Yeah, it was pretty massive.
Yeah, it was huge.
I have
what was huge?
I think it was from my.
What was huge?
The moon.
That's what she said.
Yeah.
Chocolate.
It used to be huge until I got older. Then it kind of shriveled up.
What are you talking about?
The moon.
We were talking about the moon this morning.
The moon has shriveled up since you were younger? Do you see it when it first goes up?
Huge.
He was making a joke about a joke.
Yeah.
No, we were talking about the moon. I posted a picture in main chat this morning at about 6 o'clock. It was extremely large.
Cool.
What happened to paradox and category error?
Can someone grab that? I'd like to see that. I like a big moon.
Maybe he was talking about mooning.
Well, the moon is a paradox in of itself, if you want to talk paradoxes, because as it gets further away, as its GP gets further away from you, its angular size seems to increase.
I mean, to some of the heretics watching this, you just saying its angular size changes is heresy to them, because it doesn't, according to them, other than on the scales that they would give with atmospheric refraction taken into account. They say that that's the only reason it's getting bigger. It's just an illusion, though. They say if you measure it, you won't even see any size difference in the measurement. It's still the same number of arc seconds, but by comparison to a tree line or a house, it's going to look huge. I mean, I don't necessarily think that's true.
It's like a
I would like to.
If I could just give another example to what John brilliantly put to a sentence. When I had to get glasses, they said, do you want the bifocal, you want the reading one as well? I go, well, explain what that means. That means, well, if you look straight out, you can see everything like normal. But if you tip your eyes down, then you can read a book. So I have two different ways of seeing things. Now, I move the glasses to where the bottom parts with my eyes, and man, everything changes. And then I put it down, I can see far away really clear. So the moon or the sun is coming down like the bifocal glasses to the bottom part. John, that was brilliant.
Well, no, it's not me. It's actually something that philosophers have talked about for a long time. And I guess you could say that it's atmospheric refraction. I don't even know. You could say it's air refraction.
No, lensing. Not refraction. Atmospheric lensing.
Bifocal.
But see, that's the thing. The stars don't suffer that.
No, they don't. But buildings do. So Rob Skeever, rest in peace, covered this when he got a boat, travelled towards Chicago, and as he did, he got them looking massive and then getting smaller as he got closer. So he got what he described accurately, I believe, as atmospheric lensing.
Atmosplanar lensing would be better.
Yeah, sure. I'm just going by the common vernacular, and I've got to watch my words. My bad.
I'd like to get Brian to give us a little more detail why perspective can't work on the globe model.
Well, yeah, it's because all the globe's mathematics come from flat Earth elevation angles to Polaris. So they had to back engineer it into a radius. And how they did that was they had to make a circle. They had to start off with the distance to the GP of Polaris at the equator, which is 5,400 nautical miles. They made that into a diameter, right? They know they could make a diameter out of that, which would be 10,800 nautical miles. And then they just doubled that again, because that's how they extended out the latitude and longitude grid. So they doubled that again to give a 90 south and to give a 90 south from the equator and 90 north from the equator. And they just then took that, let's say basically just any two corresponding longitude lines, which would amount to 21,600 nautical miles in distance. They just orthographically made a circle out of it. And when they did that, they just moved the person from the GP of Polaris down to the equator, and as they went to the equator, their view to Polaris would have changed. Their angle to the Polaris would have changed, even though they wouldn't have had an angle with a curved surface. The point is that if you do many little orthographic tangent planes, which they need to do, down as far as the equator line, you will end up seeing Polaris at the zero. But the problem with that is that's where their radius comes from, and that's where their whole globe model, the whole of heliocentrism starts there. Second part was the sun, and then Polaris. But the second part was the sun, and they needed to hijack the angular size of the sun to make that. It was changed a few times, but these days it's 865 plus 1,000 miles in diameter. Right, so they needed then to take that 865,000 mile diameter sun they were claiming and place it at 93 million miles away for that size diameter to match the angular size. So all they've done is they hijacked frontal perspective, flat plane horizontal measurements of Polaris as you move south from its GP point and the angular size of the sun. And that's what created the whole of heliocentrism. And but all of their maths, all of them start and end orthographically. So you cannot have perspective or angular size or anything else like that on a globe model. Those things can't exist because every part of heliocentrism is orthographic. You understand? You want me to add more?
No, I need it more simplified. So, because if you say that perspective kills the globe model, then that's a kill shot. That's what you're saying, correct?
Well, yeah, it can't exist on the globe model. The globe model is orthographic. There is no such thing as perspective and orthographic. There is perspective view and orthographic view. Orthographic view is on a page or a computer screen in 2D. It can be used as a tool for showing someone something, but if that's your whole world, and your whole world is based off of that, and all the mathematics for what you believe is based off of that, and it's only a back engineering from perspective, angular measurements of perspective, then if that's what you believe, then your whole world is void of perspective.
So give an example. For example, you're a navigator on a boat in the ocean, and you're sighting the sun. Now, you're sighting the sun, not orthographically. You're looking forward because you can't see yourself from the side of your own head, and you do it. You get the angle, elevation angle. They show that side-on view. And how does the first guy using perspective to sight the sun with the sextant for an elevation angle differ from their side-on view? Give me the difference there.
We can't do that. For a start, and this is one of my more recent videos, for a start, and I'm surprised it hasn't got more attention. The horizon we see, for a start, is not the geometric horizon of the globe. And that's even admitted by our opposition. When you're getting your elevation angle to Polaris, you're using the reality sea horizon, if you're at sea with a Mariner sextant. You're not using a geometric horizon of the globe. So consequently, that destroys all of our maths, because all of our maths requires a geometric horizon in orthographic view. Secondly, they have a curved surface. We can't take an angle off a curved surface. So there's no way out of it. Like, I mean, you don't have to even go complicated. Just look at the sun. Has that got an angular size? Yes. What's its actual size? We don't know. That's the end of that. The fact that it has an angular size and an angular size only, something it can't have on their model, is the end of the globe.
Let's get this tighter. So what you're saying, when I see an orthographic view of a person holding a sextant and the dingleberry underneath the tangent plane and the star above the tangent plane, and it shows an angle, he's literally getting the angle because he's got a tangent plane acting as the baseline because he can't use the curved surface of the dingleberry, correct?
Yeah, it's just mathematical surgery.
Okay, I know. Hang on. So then that's not happening because in reality, the sailor with the sextant is looking forward, not at the side of his own head, and he's got perspective to deal with, and the angle is above the sea level, using the sea horizon as the baseline, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, so perspective in any way, sense, or form can never work with a globe model for any angle measurements, correct?
No, they don't have perspective. They can't have. Every bit of their model is orthographic. Everything is orthographic. There is no perspective. Their maths has no perspective. Every single thing is to deal with Earth curve in the orthographic. There is no perspective.
So parallel lines do not meet at infinity, Brian?
Parallel lines never meet.
Oh, but perspective shows us what?
That they appear to.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
So I shared something with you the other day. I haven't put it together, but you can see where I'm leading you with these questions, right?
Yeah, I know, yeah.
Okay. In their own books, referencing their globe model, parallel lines meet at infinity.
It doesn't happen. It can't.
No. I'm saying they say it does, but they don't want to use it here on Earth. So how could, but they meet at infinity. Well, what's infinity to them? What is the sensible horizon, the theoretical reference point at eye level, not the sea horizon, but the theoretical eye level horizon with a bubble or a plumb up? Where does that meet at infinity with?
The Earth.
Well, it's the horizon.
John, the equator, the celestial sphere model, in their own books, they admit that the sense that parallel lines don't meet. They admit to that, but then they say, however, they meet at infinity at the celestial sphere. What meets at infinity at the celestial sphere? Your horizontal and the equatorial plane, the rational horizon, celestial horizon, another name for it, at infinity they meet. How could they say that if there's no perspective? Long silence. You know how they could say that? There's something called projected geometry. Projected geometry. I've got loads and loads of resources for it. Guess where that came from?
Celestial sphere?
Paintings from the 1600s when artists figured out perspective and vanishing points. So the globe says, oh yeah, we need that too. So my horizon at my eye level and the Earth cut in half, that rational plane at infinity meet, but where I'm at, they're parallel. They say that. So they're booing perspective all this time, and then underlying everything, they're saying it's the essence of everything and the way we see.
Well, yeah, isn't that the reason, like, flat Earth isn't completely squashed out as, because you got to keep the source intact of your claim. Otherwise, you have no basis for your claim. So, the flat Earth measurements and the flat Earth model they can't just get rid of that. They need that to make their claims.
Well, it's interesting you say that because that's you and I, that's our speculation that we had together. Previously, it was the speculation that it needs to be kept in the semi-mainstream to be ridiculed once it's come across. So that flat earthers and the idea of flat Earth is ludicrous as a paradigm. But you are right. You can't decry the very origins of your model. Because when you get to the bit, well, they obviously realise that they've got to have a sine formula taking it from the flat plane. Well, then there's a flat plane involved. Pre-globe. Can't just kill that. Just ridicule the people who say that that's actually the world, and then it all evens out in the end as long as you can keep a reasonable amount of control over it. I think that's what we're subject to. That level of control, like everyone else in different areas of their world, are controlled. If you believe you're not, you've somehow escaped it, even if you've took off your straw man coat or are talking about flat Earth, you're not. You're in a system that's got these structures of control, part of their systems, and when I puzzle and fathom why aren't I just banned? If you want to talk about mainstream media hoaxes, you just get removed. Don't mess with the magic trick as it's happening. Why isn't it that we are not removed? Well, because it's very much critical to the claim of a globe Earth to have a flat Earth, unfortunately. That's why the people who oppose it are no better or worse off than we, because they're just not towing the line of the narrative as it's descended in the mainstream, which shouldn't be thought about too much. If you're thinking about it too much, and then coming up with overcomes that are actually heresy, you're a dangerous person. You need to be bundled over here with the flat earthers, you dangerous sod.
Right. Could you imagine if they did make it illegal or make a regulation against speaking about this, right? And then someone goes to talk about celestial navigation, then that they would get banned if somebody, one of us, just happened to point out that they're using, Earth as a flat plane. They would have to be banned if you were going to show any principle whatsoever.
Do you hear that?
So it could be a real problem real quick.
Yeah. Do you hear what John's just done there, audience members? He's pointed out, not that talking about flat Earth could potentially get somebody banned, but celestial navigation, just talking about that, because it requires Earth to be flat to do it. Just talking about that, if flat Earth was banned, would come under the same exact algorithmic censorship, because you're talking about a flat Earth when you talk about celestial navigation. It's ipso facto what you are just doing when you do it. So therefore, all the terms that they use, like 90 and elevation angle and horizontal and the plane, the circle of equal elevation, all of those things will get you banned. Obviously, you can't allow that to be the case. That's why we're tolerated. Just fringe, as opposed to banned.
Can I present this thing, Nathan?
Go.
Is that yes?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Okay. This is, just I want to be quick about this. This is the sun above the horizon. This is the reality horizon, the sea horizon, right? This is the sun above it. This is what we see in reality. This is what we take. If you're on a boat here on that water, you're going to take an elevation angle between the horizon and the sun, whether it be the lower limb, the upper limb, whichever. The point is that's the sun, moon, stars. You're taking an angle off of this horizon. That is what you're doing. Feeding back on someone there. That's what you're doing, right? So you're taking an angle off of this horizon, right? So you're creating a horizontal line, let's say if you're in a boat here, out to the horizon, and taking a vertical measurement up to the sun. Okay, and that's what you're doing. So if you go to, sorry, there's someone at the door. 1 second. Sorry, one moment. Sorry about this.
That's an awesome picture of the sun over a flat plane. You know?
Beautiful.
Just got to say another RIP to the geometric horizon based on observer height.
Well,
Rest in
Brian's
peace
sorting
to
out
that.
his.
So is that rest in pain or rest in peace?
Sorry about
Brian's-
that. I'm back.
Yes.
There's someone at the door for me there. Had to.
Well, let me just. I was going to add something anyway. So, back to your claims about the globe not being capable of deriving perspective. All of their views in their maths take place in a view that has your own head in the shot, and that is not what we get. This is an actual perspective view. The globe maths doesn't have that. You see your own head in the picture with the target on the right and you on the left. So you're looking at the side of your own head. That's what we mean when we say orthographic. It's just not the view that you get. When you look at the horizon and establish your baseline, that's flat, that's horizontal. Using that horizon, then you can measure a vertical angle for the sun in this instance. But there's no side of your own head involved. That's what the globe has to cope with.
But that's where I'm going with this. So this is why I started off this video. This is Polaris kills the globe, end of story. That's the name of the video. That's why I started off this video like that, showing reality. Because from here, when I move along, right, go to here, and this is going to be an astrolabe, but it's all the same. The point is that the star, the horizon, that's the sea horizon, the reality. That's what you're using, okay? We just showed, that's a diagram in orthographic, right? Some kind of somewhat orthographic view that's trying to depict what was happening back here, right? So then we move on to the likes of this, which is showing starlight from Polaris coming straight down, observer here, local horizon, right, at this point here, this is what they call the local horizon, and that will be your angle to Polaris, right? They have this little tangent plane coming out here, right? But then we move on a bit further. I go on to this one. There's several of them there. There's another one I put in. They're showing the horizon, and all your angles come off of the horizon, right? So they're emitting is definitely angle off the horizon. There's another one, like horizon, angle off of the horizon, right? But yet they have to claim this circular thing here, because this is what their maths is based off of, observations to Polaris. But that's how we observed observations to Polaris, and not like this. So we move on to this. Altitude of Polaris, right, for your latitude. When Polaris is at the equator, when you're at the equator, you see Polaris here on the horizon. When you're 30 degrees north, you see the Polaris 30 degrees above the horizon. When you're at the North Pole, Polaris is straight above you. This is it, right? Then you have, they're showing here the different latitudes that would be created orthographically on their globe. But that would require their geometric horizon, right? So just to give some, that's what I want. This, first of all, this is this guy WS, who is basically one of our opposition, and he has this website attacking Flat Earth for years, and it's a lot of nonsense. It's just you could call the whole website straw man, because that's what it is. And here you have him, geometric horizon, right? All these angles to Polaris using these little tangent planes, geometric horizon. But it's a geometric horizon that is being referenced because the maths for the radius come from back engineering of these observations.
Hold on a second. Go back to that diagram. Not one of those are angles on the right-hand diagram. Not one is an angle.
That.
None of those are angles.
Yeah, none of those are angles. None of those are angles.
Let me just show what I mean for the audience. Is it say 60 or 80 here? I can't quite make it out. But third one around the curve.
This one is 60.
Okay, so 60 degrees. What's 60 degrees? Well, there's a curved surface between this guy and his whatever the vantage is. Notice we're seeing the side of our own head again. It's not how things look. Nevertheless, this is not an angle. This is a straight line meeting a curved surface. That's not an angle. Why has it got a tick next to it when it hasn't even got the basics of what an angle is?
Yeah, they add in these little these serrated tangent planes. They're just admissions that they require a horizontal plane. That's all these serrated parts are. That's what this guy added. This guy WS. That's why he added it. So as you can see, as the person gets down to the equator line, it's zero. They see Polaris at the zero. That's the claim. Now on to something more official, right? This is a more official diagram showing Polaris is up from everywhere above the equator, right, in their model. And these are all the latitudes that are created by the up to Polaris and the angle off of their geometric horizon. See, this is the thing. They can't get an angle off the geometric horizon, but also the geometric horizon is only in the maths. So the whole model is built off of something they've never seen and also can't get the latitude off. But this is where I'm going to, 1 second now. That was from this source here, right? This is I can't read the source, but it's a reputable source, one of the universities in the United States. Latitude, North Star, Polaris, north-south, latitude, off the horizon, right? To measure latitude, this is from a reputable university in the US. To measure latitude, measure angle between Polaris and the horizon. So everything they do is based off of the horizon and taking angles off of the horizon.
It's based off a flat Earth elevation angle measurement.
Yes, exactly. And the whole point, I just go to here a second. I'm going to read this out. First of all, so I'm just going to show. Here we are again. That's reality. There's reality. This is reality here, right? And we know this is not the geometric horizon because of this, right? We know that's not the geometric horizon. So when you're taking your angle to Polaris, if you wanted to get your latitude at this point, now maybe it's in the wrong direction here, but the point is that the point I'm making is if you want to get your latitude, you use this horizon here. You don't use a geometric globe horizon. You don't use that. You can't get your latitude using the globe. It's impossible. You must use the reality horizon that we see, not the geometric mathematical horizon that exists mathematically underneath the water here somewhere. You can't use that. That's the point. And here I'd even do angles to Polaris modus tollens. If P, the angles to Polaris that give us our latitude positions, are taken between Polaris and the globe Earth's geometric horizon, then Q, the refraction calculation of 7/6R, would have to be included in all the angle measurements to Polaris. Not Q, the refraction calculation of 7/6R is not included in any angle measurements to Polaris. So not P, the angles to Polaris that give us our latitude positions are not taken between Polaris and the globe Earth's geometric horizon. And I move on then. Logically, this debunks the claim that the horizon is a refracted position, refracted up from a globe Earth's geometric horizon, as all the angles to Polaris use our visible apparent horizon, which means that all our latitude positions are determined by the angle between our visible apparent horizon and the apparent altitude of Polaris above it. So logical inference would obviously strongly suggest that elevation angles to Polaris debunk the very existence of a globe Earth, as our visible horizon is apparent and not geometric. See Exhibit A, that was the black swan. Yet it is these very angular measurements taken between our visible apparent horizon and Polaris that were hijacked and back calculated into a globe Earth's radius value. So this means that a globe Earth's geometric horizon does not and cannot exist as for the globe Earth's geometric horizon and the globe Earth itself to exist, then every single angle measurement between the horizon and Polaris would have to have been measured between the globe Earth's geometric horizon and Polaris, and not a visible apparent horizon and Polaris as we used in reality.
Boom! That was epic.
Yeah.
Boom. Yeah.
Thank you.
I said it would be concise. It's just because obviously behind the scenes at the moment, the guys are working on something that's a lot more complicated, just as devastating. But this I knew would be summed up in about 24 hours by you, Brian, and you've done a cracking job. Really, really well done.
Well, this was from video made a week ago.
Can we call this one the Irish Swan?
Yeah, because this is from about a week ago. I made this video a week ago.
This isn't a black swan situation, though, isn't it? I mean, in regards to seeing something beyond its geometric limitations. Well, if you raise an altitude and you've got the star on the horizon, then you're seeing it beyond its geometric limitations. because there should be an Earth curve in the way, blocking your view of the star, because it's a physical hill getting in the way. So if you imagine you've got the night sky in front of you, right, and you've got, let's say, 5 degrees to a certain star, just for the sake of this example, but then you back down a hill. As you back down the hill, that becomes your geometric or physical limitation to your view, the hill. So therefore you block your view of the star because there's a geometric physical limitation to your view. Now you walk forward or up, so you no longer have the view because you've raised in altitude, and then you bring the star back. So you drop, it goes behind the physical hill, you raise, and it comes back. That's what happens with physical limitations between you and something you're trying to look at. If it's between you and it blocks you, and if you're above it, it doesn't. That's not how the behaviour of the stars lines up, though, now, is it? It doesn't make a slightest bit of difference where the star is in relation to the horizon. It's always at the same angle. Ergo, the horizon's not a geometric limitation obscuring your view if you've got 1 degree to a star at any altitude. That can only work on a flat plane. Well done, Brian. Very good work.
Thanks, Nathan, because the whole point of what I'm pointing out is that all the geometry, orthographic geometry for their radius and then their whole heliocentric model starts and ends with the observations to Polaris. And if we can't get our latitude, we can only get our correct latitude using the horizontal apparent sea reality horizon. We can't use a globe Earth or anything to get our correct latitude. You can't use any globe thing to get your correct latitude. Yet the claim is that it comes from a globe. So the point is that all their maths are destroyed by the fact that the horizon is not geometric. Now I know that's an old, we know, no shit, Sherlock. But the point is that when it comes to using Polaris, they could claim refraction and hand wave away the black swan as much as possible for the past 2 years. But when it comes to Polaris, they can't claim it's refracted. It has to either be geometric and give us our latitude, or it's not geometric, and that means the globe is over. They're the only 2 options, and it's not a false dichotomy. It's either is geometric and we get our latitude off it, or it's not geometric and we don't get our latitude and we get our latitude off it. If you understand what I mean. So when you need your latitude, you can't go to the globe because you can't get it. You can only get it in reality.
And in reality, when you're doing celestial navigation, John pointed this out right at the end of the live show. Just talking about celestial navigation is talking about how flat Earth works. That's the bottom line here. That's why it's a much better way of putting it. You're on semi-lukewarm, but not quite on fire, but getting there, John, in this regard. Because I was trying to explain how John's been saying it's not an argument. And I've been saying your arguments with celestial navigation. Well, let's just flip that on its head once more and go, celestial navigation uses a flat Earth, therefore, are they going to be persecuted? Because what they're talking about is utilising angle measurements from a flat baseline, and that's the ground you're about to navigate. And you're establishing a flat baseline for the ground you're about to navigate with the horizon and its horizontal aspects at any altitude, because you're correcting for a differential between 2 horizontal planes if you've only got the horizon at altitude. Now, as Brian's pointing out, this idea of a geometric limitation would be prevalent when you raised above the physical limitation of a sphere and got a better view of more stars. They wouldn't stay the same. That couldn't be the case. So it is the Irish black swan, because if the Earth was a sphere with a radius of 3959, then every distance to that geometric limitation blocking your view of the stars could be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. And what do you know? You go up higher, and we've got the exact same, no difference. Doesn't make any difference to the angle. We're not seeing more. We're not retaining our extra view of the stars. That's not how it works. So the horizon's not a limitation called Earth curve. The Irish black swan shows that with the stars. The original and best, let's be honest, black swan shows that with the horizon beyond the oil rigs. We can show it on land, we can show it using the sky. The horizon's not Earth curve.
Can't wait for Arwen to say he named it the Irish Black Swan.
He doesn't get to say he's Irish.
I should get credit.
We get to name it.
I named it.
Yeah, Chocolate, can I share a killer blow to this? Go to Master B and that written.
We will name it after Brian.
You go into the slide.
Yeah, go ahead.
Celestial horizon, a great circle on the surface of the celestial sphere, everywhere 90 degrees from the zenith. The visual horizon is the line at which the Earth appears to meet the sky. If a plane is passed through the observer's position and perpendicular to the zenith nadir axis, we have the sensible horizon. The visual horizon is corrected to the sensible horizon by application of a correction for height of observer's eye. If a plane is passed through the center of the Earth, perpendicular to the zenith nadir axis, we have the rational horizon. Put your seatbelts on, boys. When projected to the celestial sphere, both the sensible and the rational horizon meet at the celestial horizon. This occurs because the planes of the sensible and rational horizons are parallel, and since parallel lines meet at infinity, the radius of the celestial sphere. What's a confession that they're making here, hidden in all this mumbo jumbo?
Parallel lines meet at a what?
Hang on, I know how it sounds. I'm deep diving into this for a while now, but this was the clue. This occurs because the planes of the sensible, now remember, that's Xanax plumb bob, or that's your eye line horizon with a reference to the horizon based on the bubble, not the sea horizon. And when I asked old Virus, may he rest in peace, he says that's a straight line. And of course it is. This occurs because the planes of the sensible horizon, the one I just mentioned, and the rational horizons, and that's the one at the middle of the Earth, all the way to celestial sphere, the equatorial plane, are parallel. Okay, fine, shows it in the orthographic pictures, they're parallel. And since parallel lines meet at infinity, I said, how in the world can you say that and this next to each other? And guess where it took me? Anybody?
The last word. Guess where what?
Guess where it took me? Anybody? What are they admitting to here? Perspective.
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 The orthographic view?
No, they're admitting to perspective because this is, when I saw this and I started my search and the deep hole I'm in now with it, they bring in projected now, geometry, a new geometry we're all going to get familiar with, hopefully by next week if I get my act together. Projected geometry, they say they got from the artists who learned not to draw orthographically anymore, but use vanishing points and perspective. And they borrowed it from the artists and said that the sensible horizon and the rational horizon, even though they're parallel, meet at infinity. Guess what another synonym for infinity is?
You're going to say the horizon?
Yes, guess another one.
A perspective, vanishing point.
That's it, vanishing point. End of story, end of orthographic. Perspective kills the globe.
Yeah, it doesn't even exist on it.
It feels good to be at the cutting edge of this subject at the moment. I do really feel like we're all on top of our game. I've got to be honest.
Yep.
even the height of void correction. I was saying, talking about this with Tent recently. The height of void correction is a perspective correction, because to the person on the boat, most of the time, the horizon will appear to be at eye level. So when they're looking out, they can't just pre-assume that they're going to be shooting an angle in a straight line with the marine sextant. They can't pre-assume that, well, it looks to be an eye line, so, I mean, that's going to give me a correct angle. No, because their eye line is above the water level, they found out that their angles were wrong, or maybe someone told them, I don't know, but the angle will be wrong if they don't correct for the height of eye. And what's a height of eye correction? It's a perspective correction, isn't it? Because you can look straight out and look like the horizon is at your eye line, as far as you're concerned. Especially if you're especially if you're in a boat, which will be close to the water. I mean, like most boats, like unless they're even the big ships, you'd be 50, 60 feet above the water, maybe a bit more. But most boats aren't that. They're much closer to the water. So you just, and the higher you go, the further the horizon stretches out. So even on a big ship, you look out, just like in an airplane, and you think the horizon's at your eye level. But it only appears that way, because that's the meeting point of everything. So what's going to happen is, go on.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. Nathan, are you from an earshot distance from me?
Yeah.
Your last statement was view of more stars as you raise up. Yeah, you would expect that on that plane that Brian showed. You're up 6 miles. You should see more stars. Why is it you don't see more stars and you just see the same stars with the same boundary line?
I can't explain why we do.
I am.
Oh, go on then.
Parallel lines meet at infinity. That's perspective from the plane. That's perspective from the guy on the boat. We know, and they even admit in Euclidean geometry, that parallel lines never meet. They are hiding the fact that perspective exists. And Brian just said they can't have a globe Earth orthographic views and at the same time talk perspective. And yet I'm citing what they're saying, and there's more to come.
Sounds like another hijacking.
They have hijacked perspective to such a point that in this coded way, they're saying it exists.
Yeah, I guess get a picture of a load of guys in balaclavas with machine guns, and they're stopping a truck, and they're taking the driver out, and they're beating him down. They're saying, we're taking your truck. Do you know what I mean? And on the truck it says horizontal plane, and they're hijacking the truck. Do you know what I mean?
No, yeah, but listen, if you're in the plane 6 miles up, and all the stars on their model are below the equator, and now you've got this vantage point because you're 6 miles up, how come you don't see any more stars than the guy on the surface?
Can I just make a mental note for myself on this recording that I'm just fiddling with the gain on my compressor number 3. That is all. Thank you.
It's because the horizon appears to rise to what?
Eye level.
Eye level.
Appears to, right. Perspective, vanishing point, compression, infinity, horizon. It all converges. The brick at the deck.
Exactly. I mean, you're looking straight ahead, and you might only see 2/3 of the building over across a horizontal. And you think that the reason you can only see 2/3 is because there's something blocking it. But there isn't something actually blocking it. It's just down to your diffraction limit. That's what happens. Like, that becomes your horizon. You can't see all the bricks below the 2/3, the third from the bottom up. You can't see that because of it's basically visually compressed. That's basically what happens. Because if it did, how would our eyes work if perspective didn't exist? What would things look like? You'd never be, everything would have its actual size all the time. It would be crazy. That's globe world. We don't live there.
I think it's a great contrast you've made today, Brian. You've done, as I said, really good work in terms of contrasting their orthographic view with their perspective view that they don't have. That's been followed up by 10th Man detailing how they've got to incorporate some perspective aspects into the visual representation we actually deal with, and they don't have any in their curved maths. We've had parallel light rays versus the curved refracted light rays that they claim today. I mean, I think it's been a really good show.
Yeah, it's been very informative. Parallel light rays comes down to say, but as I said, and even like everywhere on every point today, like including parallel light rays, they're debunked. Feeding back on someone there. Parallel light rays. The only reason that there is a claim, I'm going to just throw it out there again, just to really drive it home. The only reason there's a claim that we have parallel light rays is only due to the sun and shadows. When they hijacked whatever Eratosthenes did, right? Eratosthenes, if he existed and he did what he did, then he measured an elevation angle that required a horizontal baseline and then multiplied the 7.24 zenith angle to give him his distance to the well. That's what he would have had to do, right? So, and that distance has to be then a horizontal, because it won't work. If you try and make that distance work over a curved surface of a globe, the zenith won't work with it. Just the whole thing doesn't work. But the point is, they needed, their biggest problem was the shadows, is that the sunlight comes in divergent. So if it comes in divergent, that gives us our shadows. How can they explain that on their model? Well, they needed to claim that the sun had a much huger diameter than the globe, and we got parallel light that only appeared to be divergent. But then, because of the angular size of the sun, they had to place that huge sun at a big distance to match the angular size. So it all comes back to shadows. So when our opposition, because I still haven't, even last night, I had people trying to share pictures with me, people in our opposition, share pictures with me of parallel shadows. It has nothing to do with the shadows. It's got to do with the parallel light rays claim comes from a change in the actual physical structure of the Earth and a change in the structure or what the sun is. It makes the sun big and far away, whereas divergent light rays makes the Earth horizontal and makes the sun, whatever it is, more close and local. But they don't even understand that parallel shadows have nothing to do with parallel light rays. You can create parallel shadows. It's no big deal. I'm looking at one now with keys making a parallel shadow. You know, but they don't understand. The problem, I'm not going to keep on harping on, but one second, Tent. One second. But look, it has to be, Aaron. It has to be. This thing, when they say it's not perfectly parallel, no, it has to be perfectly parallel for the shadows to work. But the point is, the biggest problem is the people we're dealing with, not only are they heretics, but they're heretics a lot of the time because they don't even know their own model. They don't actually understand their own model. Even something as simple as parallel light rays, something that any globe believer worth their salt should understand, they don't understand the origins of it or why it's claimed. They don't know. They think mathematics is an answer to everything. No, we have to go back to where it came from, why it's claimed. They don't know their own model.
But even when they do,
John, and
even when they do, they defend it as though it's somehow righteous. So you'll have people like Rufy who'll show you the Haversine formula and give it to you like it's a defence of how the globe is real, not appreciating that he's literally telling you how they convert from flat plane to globe. But in his mind, here's my wonderful proof. See, that's his mind and his mindset when he's telling you this, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. Even with someone like Rufy who does know the globe, but is willing to just say anything, he will put the Haversine formula onto a screen and say proof. Not caring, not wanting to know what's really going on. He just proof, Haversine formula.
Right, but they think that every proof is a globe proof because they have no oversight, because they lost it long, long ago. They only have their formula, right, that they follow, and their excuses, their quick-witted excuses to tell us. but they've lost oversight over how things really supposed to work within the globe model a long time ago, especially people like Ruif. Like, he does not have oversight at all. Some of the anti-flat earthers might have a bit better oversight, but he definitely does not.
What I'm saying is he's come to the oversight.
Refracted curvature here.
I just say he's come to a position that has shown him something connected mathematically to, in his mind's eye, proving the globe, right? That's what he thinks he's doing. He thinks he's proving the globe when he shows the Haversine formula. Now, we can't divine his motivation, but we can say that what he's actually done, what he's actually presented, is how you convert flat to globe. But what psychologically you can only infer, because it's what he's done, is that in his mind, that's how the globe is making it a reality. So when you say, oh, well, they just present it like this is a piece of proof because it's some maths that's got some globe claim in it. It's like, well, yeah, but that's what they've gone out and looked for, and when they've found it, they'll present it. And in their mind, it can only mean one thing. That to them is the proof. Even if it's, here's the maths for how we take a flat plane and make it spherical. Well, it's the make it spherical bit that they focus on, sad as that seems, but that's actually what's happening. Does anybody disagree with me that they're just looking for confirmation bias?
It is, and it is total cognitive dissonance. Like, they don't realize that they are literally fabricating the ball Earth. They were always fabricating the ball Earth. It's something that I have realized personally a long time ago when I didn't really believe the flat Earth, even though it was kind of told to me. And it was like, oh yeah, we build this thing. We build it together. And apparently Rufy's there, but he doesn't even realize that he's there. He doesn't realize, like, yeah, hey, Rufy, you realize you're showing us how you construct it.
Okay, don't give him that credit. No. He's not constructing this web. He's navigating his way along it.
You know what I mean.
Navigating his way along the web of lies and then saying, here you go, this is how this bit of the web works. That's not him weaving the web. Far from it. Don't give him such credit. Right, no, Rufy's not smart enough to come up with the lies. Only read them and repeat them.
But if you're part of it, and you believe it, you think you are helping to construct it, even though he might have not literally built it. Still think you're part of it.
Perpetuation of a lie isn't the same as construction of a lie. You're just as culpable in the legal sense, but that doesn't mean that he's in any way guilty of the fabrication. He, in you disseminating his motives and divining his thoughts, that he feels like he's helping prop up the cause in making the fabric of the lie. Well, you can claim that. You're not Mystic Megan, you haven't got a crystal ball and you don't know what he's thinking. What I know is his actions, and his actions can only speak to him believing that what he's doing is actually disseminating some proof for the being on a sphere when he describes transposition from flat plane to globe. That's what his mind can only be telling him. Well, what is he doing when he tells... I'm nearly there. What is he doing when he tells someone that? He's showing them that when he navigated along the web of lies, he found something that affirmed his bias and then repeated it. That's what it shows me. There's no other conclusion. That's what he's done. Now, you can speculate about what he thought or what his motivations were. I'm not interested. Sorry, Arwin. Go ahead.
You're doing exactly the same thing. You're just taking it one step back. That's all. And I have comparative material, and that is my own personal experience when I was there. And that's what I'm comparing it to, right? The big difference is that was me very young. I've wisened up since. Back then, I wasn't facing flat earthers that were like, snap out of it. No, I was facing people that were like part of the fabrication. Jesuits. And they basically said, yeah, we're building this. Don't ever tell this to anybody. Right? And I was like, okay, so that's how this works. Okay, this is kind of cool. So we're making it together. And I wasn't literally making it. I was just figuring out how they think, how this works, how you get it, right? It's not literally constructing the machinations, but it feels like you're part of it. And that's what I was trying to compare it with, what he's doing. It feels like it. That's all.
Is refracted curvature available?
He's not in this hangout now.
Oh, he must have just left.
Sorry.
No, well, he used Eratosthenes' shadow was an elevation angle measurement. What Brian is talking about is they assumed the Earth is a globe and curving. And so that's why sunlight has to come in parallel in order for it to work for a globe curving away. If sunlight came in divergent, it wouldn't work on the sphere for that shadow. But in reality, it's a plane that you live on. And we already know the measurements are coming from the equatorial plane for everything. So you might as well just assume, because that's exactly what's happening, Eratosthenes is on the plane we live on, just like the measurements for celestial navigation come from the plane we live on, but transposed to the center of the Earth as an equatorial plane. That being said, the sun at 90 casts no shadow because it's directly overhead. As the sun is going away from you, is at a lower elevation above the horizon, which gives the angle and the shadow. It's that simple.
Coolio. That's probably where I'm going to round out this show then. So with that, I'm going to say another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and Jeepers Panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!